Hey, what's up, guys? So you guys know that I use my chainsaw a lot. If you've seen some of my other videos, cutting down trees, cutting up logs, things like that. So obviously the chain gets dull once in a while. On my last video taking out the willow tree, I did a lot of cutting. It did really well, but it's time to sharpen it. So stick around. I'm going to show you how to sharpen a chainsaw chain. Hope you enjoy it. All right, guys, so let's go through some chainsaw basics before we get into sharpening the chainsaw. Um, in some previous videos, I talked about oil and fuel mixture here, and then bar and chain oil over here. I'll put a link to that in this video down below so you can see how to fill those. I do talk about some of the types of fuel and things of that nature, so I won't go through that today, but do want to just talk about the kickback device here. So if you're using your chainsaw and the chainsaw kicks back, your hand will jam into this and actually stop the blade here. It'll stop it from rotating. A lot of people start their chainsaws and then they can't figure out why the bars or the chain's all jammed up. And it won't spin. So one thing to check, because a lot of times when you're moving your chainsaw around, it's very simple just to click that in and click it out. That's a break right there. So, and then just basic starting. This is a Stihl chainsaw. It's probably one of the best in the world. You know, it's on, squeeze the trigger for the choke, release the trigger. This is the choke down here, and then you're going to pull that until it spins one time. I can show you. Just like that. Now I'm going to click that up once. So those are the basics. So the other things, you may have seen something like this. This is a chain key. You can use it to open up your bar and chain oil area. You can use it here to open up your fuel area. Of course, you want to turn the chainsaw like that and then simply just twist that. Open it up, put your fuel in, and close it down, and you can tighten it like that. The same with the bar and chain lubricant. And this is also used for, obviously this is a spark plug device. Kind of works as a handle, but you can take the spark plug out with this. I actually use this on the lawnmowers and some other things too. But one thing a lot of people don't know is that you can tighten the chain. Actually, you know, as you're using this chainsaw, the chain starts to stretch. It's either the chain stretches or the bar starts to move out away from the chainsaw itself. And both can happen. And then when you get a loose chain similar to this, there's a couple of easy things that you can do to tighten it, especially if you're out in the field. So first thing you can do is essentially just loosen these just a little bit. And I did say this was a spark plug, but it's also for these nuts here too. So I'm just going to loosen those up just a little bit. And what these do is it clamps this unit down onto the bar. Now I've got a little bit of play. I think you can probably see that in there. It's got some play there. And then there's this screw right here. Let me bring it in a little bit closer. You see that screw right there? Now I can take the end of this, which is basically a screwdriver, and I can give that a couple of turns. And basically what that's doing is it's taking this bar and moving it out. And by moving it out, it tightens up the chain. And you can see now I've got some good tension on that chain right there. And so you don't want this super tight. You do want a little bit of sag on that. Since I'm taking this chain off in just a second, I'm just going to leave it right there. And then you just go ahead and tighten this up. And you're ready to go. And I don't know if you heard when I was kind of messing around with that, the brake did go on. So I just pull it back and make sure that that's in working order. So to remove the chain, I'm going to turn this, get it going like this. So I'm going to loosen these back up, and I'm going to take these off. This plate comes off, and you can see inside here you get a lot of sawdust. There's a little bit of some of the pampas grass, and I'll clean this up before I put it back on. And so now you can see how the chain goes around this mechanism right here, this gear, and that's obviously mounted to the motor itself, and this whole thing spins and spins the entire unit. So very simple to get this off, and really all I need to do is just take the bar itself and just start to wiggle it off. And then you can see the chain gets loose. And then the chain comes off. I would say kind of a pro tip would be to remember which way the bar goes back on. Certainly you don't want to flip it over. It's obviously upside down at this point, but a lot of people make that mistake. They put these green marks on there. There's a couple of reasons, but I use that as the marker, and obviously the name being upright makes sense. Same thing with the chain. There is one way that the chain's supposed to go on, and since I'm going to be sharpening this, it's going to get flipped around, and I'll show you how to kind of identify which is the best way not the best way, but the right way to put the chain on. So I've got the chain off now, got the unit over here. I'll go in here and clean out this stuff in here too and get it all kind of cleaned up. It's just oil and sawdust, and so it just needs to be wiped down. So let me get into the chainsaw sharpener. I have a sharpener. Some people elect to leave their chain on the bar and use a file, and there's a couple of different types of files, and I'm not real familiar with how to use those, but I did go to Harbor Freight and I bought a Chicago Electric chainsaw sharpener. I think it was like 30 bucks. So let me show you how to get that all set up. Okay, so here's the unit. I'll go through a little bit of how it works here in just a second, but it needs to be mounted to something. It's got a couple of mounting holes down here, and so I have a 2x6 that I use right here. It's an old one. I got one hole in it right here that this is going to go through. I have this little mounting bolt, and of course the unit's going to sit right on top of that. So let me get that set up here. So the way this works, it's relatively simple. I'm going to hang the chain up here, put this guard here. We're just going to hang it just like you would on the bar itself. And then as we go through and this comes down and sharpens each tooth here, we're simply just going to move the chain to the next unit, or the next tooth, and sharpen. And if you didn't know, but chainsaw chains, they flip-flop back and forth, the teeth on the chains. As you see, this is a sanding wheel or a grinder, and as this comes down, it's going to go ahead and sharpen that tooth right there. Okay, so before we go ahead and actually start doing the sharpening, what we need to do is set the sharpener to a specific degree. And I'll bring this in here and you can see right here there's different degrees here, and that's the sharpening angle. In order to figure out which sharpening angle you should be using, you can look at the instructions on the chain. I'll just actually go over the chain too. So okay, so sizing up a new chain, if you're going to order it online and kind of do it yourself, like I have with this one here, ordered this one online through Amazon. It is a replacement for a Stihl. You can see it right here. These cost about 18 bucks, and so well worth the investment. So how do you figure out which one you need to get? So on the bar itself, again, this is the bar right off the chainsaw. It's actually got this guide right here. I'm hoping you can see that. And so there's a lot of numbers on here, but basically take these numbers all across here and match those up to here. And I'll just kind of go through this if I can. I got a little bit of shadow going here, but so R55, you can see right here, there's a 55 right there, and that matches up over here to the R55. I've got, let's see, 0.043 inches and 1.1 millimeters on the chain width here. You can see here it matches up as well. I've got a 3/8 inch chain, and that matches up right here. I've got the 16-inch chain that goes onto the bar, and you see that matches up right here. And then the 40 centimeters, which is right there, and you see that here as well. So all these numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 numbers, all match up on the replacement chain. So that's the best way to figure it out. Obviously you can go by model number and things of that nature, but when you're buying a one-off like an Oregon, again, it is a replacement for a Stihl, but it's much different than going to the Stihl dealer. So just make sure that all 6 of those numbers match up and you're good to go. Inside the package are the instructions. There's all kinds of instructions in here, but basically there are guides to how to sharpen. It's also got information on you know, the teeth and the different measurements of the chain, etc. I'm using an R, which is this one here, and so I go across to find the degrees, and I see that it says 30 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to take my chainsaw sharpener, and I'm going to move this, see if I can get in there. So I'm going to move that to 30 degrees and line that up, and then I'm going to go tighten that down. Next step is this this guide. It's really a stop. What this allows the chain to do is you move from sharpening one to the next. This has a tendency to get a little bit stuck. As you go over the tooth, the next one, and you go a little bit too far, you want to back it up and just get it up against the guide here. And then that will allow you to bring this down and sharpen at the appropriate angle, as well as appropriate depth. You do have to do a little trial and error with that. There is an adjustment here, but I have this set because I've used this many times before. But that is what that guide is for. And then to sharpen, I did mention before, the teeth alternate, so they go different angles. One's on one angle, one's on the other angle. The sharpening portion of this still points the same direction. You can imagine as the chainsaw is going around, the teeth have to be in the same direction, but they have different angles. So one's angled this way and one's angled that way. And so I'll skip every other one, sharpen, and then I'll move this from 30 degrees on this side to 30 degrees over here. And if you can imagine, this turns like that. Now I'm bringing this down on a different angle. So I'll get this set up and I'll get sharpening. See, I start here where this is where the chain break is. You can see that the teeth are spread much farther apart than these two. And this is where that link is to get the chain apart if you ever needed to do that. And this is my marker for as I go around in the circle. When I come back to this, I know I'm done. So I made it full circle on that side. You can see, you know, it doesn't take off a lot. Again, we're just filing it, just sharpening it a little bit. Does real nice work. And so now I need to do the other angles of the teeth. So I'm just going to turn this to this side and get that measured up at 30 degrees. Go through and do the rest. Okay, so it's easy as that. Obviously, if you're out in the field and you don't have electricity or a place to mount this, using a file totally makes sense. But around my property here, I like using this tool. Again, it wasn't very expensive. It does a real nice job. I can sharpen this like 4 or 5 times, depending on how much I take off each time before I have to get a new chain. I used to bring the chains in to a local dealer, and they would charge, I think it was $6 or $8 to sharpen the chain, which is fine. I mean, it's not a lot, but considering that the chains are 18 bucks, free shipping on Amazon, and that this only cost 30 bucks, you know, it didn't seem to make sense to be bringing it in. Plus you have drive time and things like that. I'm not trying to put the dealer out of business, but just from a practical sense, it just makes sense to have a unit like this, a sharpener like this, and a couple of chains. That way you have them all the time. I've actually had the chain at the dealer one time, and the other one got dull. And that was really the whole reason why I went out and bought this thing, was that one was at the dealer and one was dull, and I had a lot of work to do. Again, you know, going ahead and investing in something like this in a little bit of time totally makes sense. So let me get this back onto the bar, get it back onto the chainsaw, and then we'll fire it up and see if it cuts. So it can be really tricky trying to figure out which way to put the chainsaw or the chain on. You can think about when you put the chain to wood, which way does the chainsaw want to go? Does it go towards your body or away from your body? Which way does the sawdust go? Fly forward, backward, etc. The easiest way to do this is to just clean this up. And of course, nice chainsaw like Stihl is going to have a little guide right here, or emblem. Let me bring that in here. And so you can see it's a picture of the chain itself. And so all you need to do is just match that up on the bar, and you're good to go. Okay, so to get the bar and chain back onto the chainsaw, of course this is going to be upright. We talked about the direction of the chain, which is you're going to follow that guide, this picture here. The key here is that there's a tension pin right here that I talked about earlier, and that's supposed to go into this little hole here. And so I want to get this on, get the bar on, and kind of size it up. And then normally I do this laying on its side, so it's a little bit easier, but I'm trying to do it upright so you guys can kind of see. So now I'm going to lay the chain, just double check that I have the chain going in the right direction. That matches up right there. And now just lay the chain in down here. So the bar is a little bit too far out, so I need to adjust that screw to bring the bar back in closer to the chainsaw itself. And you probably can't see here, but the chain is not long enough to go around the end. Okay, so I'm gonna take the chain back off. Take the bar off. And now I'm going to adjust the screw so that this pin goes back. So now I've got that moved back. Put the bar back on. Again, it's upright. Going to take the chain, double check, make sure I've got it going in the right direction with the diagram. picture. I'm gonna lay the chain on the bar. See if I can get it to come around the end. Okay, got it. Alright, so I've got the pin in here. Obviously the chain is sitting right. Just confirming that the chain is laying the correct way. And now we've got the chain on the bar. Obviously there's a bunch of sag here, so now I wanted to bring that the whole bar forward this way to tighten up the chain, and I'll do that with the tightening screw or the tension screw here. You can see as I start to tighten up, you'll start to see the chain, the slack and the chain tighten up as well. And now remember we talked about, you know, having a chain too tight, too loose, right? So this is too loose. What's going to happen is as I'm hitting the wood, obviously this is not in the track at all, so as I hit the wood, this is going to ride up in here. It'll still spin, but you'll start to get some burn marks up in here, and you can ruin the I don't know what these are called, but this seat that sits in the track here. So definitely want to tighten that up. And then a lot of people are always like, well, you know, you need it tight, right? And tight just makes the engine work a little bit too hard. And so when I do put on a new chain like this, and I'm going to put the cover on here, I do like it a little bit tight because it has a tendency to loosen up anyway. But you can see I still have play here. You can see the sunlight coming through. It's firm, but it's not super tight. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm just double check, make sure everything's seated right. And now we're going to take the cover. I'm going to put that on there. Grab the nuts. Take your key. You're really probably going to want to crank down on these. Not probably, you really do. The bar has a tendency to have a little bit of movement up and down. Okay. So now, chain's on. Everything's good to go. Just gonna fire it up. Hey, so that's chainsaw chain sharpening 101. I hope you learned something from that. I'm gonna go out to the pond right now and go test it. I want you guys to come along. Hope you enjoy it.